If we do not stand up and fight, they'll build nests on our heads, they will lay eggs, and those eggs will also make more nests on our heads, and we shall just become trees in a forest that cannot stand up and defend themselves.
The address by the young activists is one of the multiple fronts that they hope their call to end the trial of civilians in the General Court-Martial will reach those in the civilian courts of justice. They otherwise expect the public to rise up in numbers on understanding the magnitude of the threat the military courts pose to civilians due to their lack of independence and impartiality, as severally determined by the Constitutional Court.
But now is the chance, when we still have that little hope, when we still have working institutions, when we still have the ability to speak and have people listen to us, when we still have a pretense of a democracy, we have a pretentious right to vote, we can go to the streets and protest, and they'll slap a few charges on us here and there. But there is still that little hope.
The fresh discontent against the trial of civilians by the military courts was ignited by the summary imprisonment of the human rights lawyer Eron Kiiza to a 9-month jail term. Kiiza was sentenced for contempt of the military court in the course of the ongoing trial of the former 4-time presidential candidate Dr. Kiiza Besigye and his co-accused Obeid Lutale. The duo, who was briefly incommunicado after an abduction from Kenya, is charged with security, possession of firearms and treasury, and now on remand at Luzira prison as they fight the charges.
Our call to action is that, firstly, to the judiciary, the authorities in this country that are obligated by the law, by the Constitution, to protect citizens, to dispense justice, they should act. They should act in a way that, because there's no one who is immune to this impunity that everyone is perpetuating.
Atuhaire says that they have finally managed to deliver a petition to the Chief Justice chambers despite being roughed up by the security personnel. Justices of the Supreme Court are under tight public scrutiny for failing to issue a judgment on the appeal by the Attorney General against the Constitutional Court decision that annulled the trial of civilians in military courts 3 years ago. However, Chief Justice Alfonso Winyidolo says the way they are being approached about the matter is improper.
There are matters which are concerned. The only difference, they are not civil about raising them.
If you have to give it to lawyers in this country, they have given extended grace to the judiciary and these courts, because seeing what has happened, seeing cases that have sat and had, because it's not just the case of Kabazugurka. You have people that are on remand for 8 years, 10 years. Some have been on remand longer.
The period around the 2021 election saw several opposition supporters who were inclined to the National Unity Platform disappeared. To date, the lucky ones have been arraigned before the General Court-Martial. There are fears that there could be a repeat of these events with months left to the 2026 general elections.
We still are traumatized from images of seeing young women, children and men gunned down on the streets of Kampala. We, as a nation, I don't know if to say that we turned a blind eye or we decided to just move on.
However, there is hope that if the Supreme Court issues a verdict on the trial of civilians in the military courts, the situation could be averted. Jackson Onyango, NTV.